Alright, continuing with some strumming, some palm muting. So I like doing stuff like this, not just for the sound, but it does create a new challenge. So instead of just doing strumming without palm muting and strumming with palm muting, it's much more challenging to continue to go back and forth between non-palm mute and palm mute. So curious how this will help you get used to more right hand control. That's really what we're going with, is getting really good control of that right hand. So talked about, you know, the pinky anchoring thing and keeping the side of the hand down instead of letting it drift back to this. So yeah, like they have like those really good palm mute sounds. You know, having it, the chuggy chug sound on the side of the hand and not on the inside of the hand. So instead of letting your hand drift more towards that upper slant position, this time I'd say, yeah, force keeping your hand in that palm mute position as much as you can, and then gradually keep pushing yourself to be faster while being in this position. I know I've talked about, and I continue to talk about, I will with everybody I work with, that, you know, as you get faster and faster, allow your hand to kind of do what it wants to in order to allow yourself to go faster and faster. However, this is kind of a specialized approach. And because it's a specialized approach, I want you to continue focusing on the palm mute position so you maintain that downward slant position. Kind of like working an accessory type lift to, let's say, you know, the deadlift. You keep working the sumo deadlift or a stiff leg deadlift in order to address maybe some kind of compensation issue that happens in a regular deadlift, or, you know, closed stance squats to really focus on, you know, maybe your balance during a regular back squat. So that's how I'm looking at it here. So you're putting yourself in a position to focus on a particular weakness and to help that weakness become stronger. So that's kind of the approach I'm thinking of there. So let's do some demos as usual. So here we go with the 60. And let's double that up. Now at that speed, I don't feel comfortable keeping my pinky down under here anymore. However, I'm still keeping that side of my hand on the string here and not rotating this way anymore. So still keeping it so like you're holding some water in your hand there. Now, if you find that getting to 120 with this is really challenging, or you can't even get to 120 the first day that you practice, what I would do is cut everything in half. So do a supplemental approach first. Basically, let's do a quick rewrite here so you can see what I'm talking about. Basically, I'm going to cut half of the strumming out. And play it like that. So again, that's if getting to 120 is really, really challenging, or if you can't even get to 120 the first day you're practicing this. I think you may have already practiced it, but Anyway, basically, like anytime you have a situation like that, like you're working on a 16th note pattern, if getting to the minimum of 120 on your first day is just not happening, or it's extremely difficult, cut it in half. Do the halfway instead, because you'll have a much better chance of getting it in control. Do an 8th note version or the halftime version, whatever you want to call it. Doing it that way, and then working the 16th note instead. Something that I do, you know, even if like I was working on some sweep thing not too long ago, and wanted to do, I think it was triplets, but getting up to like the minimum 160 with that, it was just too much of a pain in the ass. So I was like, all right, I guess I gotta do 8th notes. So I cut it back, did the 8th notes, and then after getting that up to 240, maybe a little bit faster, I think, and do it. Then going back to the triplets, it was so much easier, so much easier. So yeah, having to cut things down and go slow to start with. Sometimes we gotta. So with this guy, again, curious how it'll be if you kind of ramp up with this sort of thing. So this one you should be able to get faster than this because you have less to do, and then, but I don't think it'll be too far off. I mean, you might actually be able to get all of them at the same speed. So, in addition to practicing these separately, what you can do when you start working on this, let's say you're getting up to, it's a speed, well, when you get up to a speed that's challenging, and it starts getting harder, break it down again, and do the first way, then the second way, then the full way. So, I'll show you what I mean. So let's run through this guy first. So yeah, maintain a good downward slant. Keep that palm mute happening the whole time. Do your best not to let your hand want to drift over this way. Keep it down like that. Okay, double time. Make sure that you're adjusting where your hand is during those palm mutes, because we know sitting down here, it's not going to sound as good up on the higher strings. So you want to move that and try and keep the same position with your hand on those strings. So the way the hand feels when you're on the low E string, when you're up on the D string, you want it to feel the same way. So don't just move your hand like this in order to reach the string. Move your arm to keep your hand in that same position. Alright, so let's go to 160 next. Now let's say 160 is proven to be challenging. So what you can do is you play the first way, just gotta go back to that, and then do the second way. And then go for the whole thing. Finish with, well, let's do 180 and then 200. So again, break it down as you're going faster and it gets challenging. Just do the first bar and then the first two and then the whole thing. Sometimes it's just so sad when you go for a pinch and it just doesn't come out the way you want it to. Alright, and 200 is the same thing. Okay. And number 3. Yes, so this one is so you can stay in that upward slant, and let's see how fast you get that. So we got some string changes happening, and I know you said it's usually when you're changing strings, that's where the hang-up occurs. So curious how fast you'll be able to go when you're not having to do any downward slant stuff. So I think the heart was, so with this one, yeah, if you get to 240 on this, let me know. That'll be time to work on 6 notes a beat. So here we go at 60, and yeah, I'm going to shift my index finger over at the beginning of every bar. You may notice that I'm doing still a lot of thumb motion for my picking at this particular speed. Not trying to do any arm stuff at this point. Let's double that, 120. Bit more wrist now. I forgot to shift. I was talking and I didn't shift. We have a bit more wrist that is happening. It's like some thumb and wrist at the same time here. Shift again. 200. I just pronounced that really weird. 200. 200. And 240. Top speed goal to reach. So again, if you get to this, let me know. So I'm using a bit more arm at this point, but I'm not at the point where I would need to use the turbo mode. But if you feel like you need to tense your arm up a bit in order to activate that kind of jiggle picking, do it. So this is definitely a exercise where you do want to allow your hand and arm to do what feels natural in order to help keep pushing yourself further and further. So we're not trying to address any particular slant to correct any imbalances in the picking. This one is just go for it. Go nuts. It's your strongest picking style. So let's push it. It's the 1 rep max type thing, right? Well, I think that covered everything. But if you have any questions for next time, let me know. I'll see you again Monday.